Electrocast.
Cars say a lot about who we are.
It represents freedom for a lot of people.
This season on Drive, I'm going to talk to all sorts of different people.
I looked at car names.
Yes.
And
yes.
I found all the car names that have science or astronomically
it's
inspired.
Crazy.
It's huge.
It is. Yes, I happen to be CEO of Ford Motor Company. For me, it's all about cars, movement, and our mutual passion for things that get us around. This is Drive, and I'm Jim Farley.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Ewan McGregor stars as Count Alexander Rostov in A Gentleman in Moscow, the new limited series based on the best-selling novel. Stream it on March 29th with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. Visit ParamountPlus.com to try it free.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Western demands.
Now, this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up, and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Dirty Doggy.
Today we're talking a movie from 2023 available in theaters, American Fiction. Yay, Cord Jefferson.
His first feature.
First feature as a director. He's been around, writing. I'm stoked for him, and I'm stoked for Jeffrey Wright.
Yep, I'm a little bit worried that this movie will be the Nightmare Alley of the year, in that it will draw lots of praise and then won't do anything at the Academy Awards. I think in part because American Fiction is a terrible title.
Right up there with American Beauty and American Animals.
I also considered the title The Unbearable Weight of Massive Irony.
Black Fiction.
Yeah, Dirty Doggy was up there, and I decided the best title would have been Smash to Black.
How about Fuck?
Right, which was the working title of this movie during production.
I guess Fuck Fiction wouldn't have worked.
Then someone said, okay, but what happens if you Google Fuck the movie, and what do you think you're going to get? How are people going to find your movie? Maybe something tamer, when they ended up choosing American Fiction.
I agree. Kind of a throwaway of a title, but I want Cord Jefferson's trailer editor because, damn, that was a good trailer.
I'm glad I didn't see that trailer because I was happy to not know what this movie was about. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know Thelonious Monk is he not a musician yet? Then I also thought maybe he's not. Maybe, isn't there, I think there's a contemporary artist named Thelonious Monk.
So you thought it was the biography of Thelonious Monk?
Right, who was like maybe a black writer, and I say a black writer. What do you call a black writer? It's a writer, right? No, because he wrote Black Studies. That's what it was.
Oh, right.
And I thought maybe one of these musicians was a writer first.
I think because Brent and I both had a little context going in, we both thought it was a little bit of a slow burn getting to him actually writing the novel Fuck. The novel. What was it called before? My Pathology?
Was called My Pathology.
Which I don't even know what that means. But we felt like it took a while to get to him writing My Pathology. And then once he did.
Yeah, and when it came, that was the movie for you that you were waiting for. It was a turn. I was like, what? Now we're fully descending into this weird meta parody a la The Incredible Weight of Massive Talent, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
The Nicolas Cage movie.
We're covering American Fiction because Jeffrey Wright is undoubtedly going to be nominated for an Oscar, and probably this movie for at least screenplay. But I'm happy to be covering the diversity selection for possibly Best Picture.
It's so awful that you even said that. Is it a diversity pick for Or Whatever Movies?
Yeah, I just really think we need to hear and pay attention to black voices these days.
So this is not one of those movies like Friday, the review for which we have not yet released. Maybe that would be a good companion for American Fiction.
Oh man.
We always try and get down with the
And we invariably start talking about how hood we also are.
So in American fiction, do we talk about how whitewashed we are?
I'm a little bit concerned. So this movie is about the idea of diversity and how absurd that is, and how, because this is a diverse novel, meaning not the typical white Bostonian novelist or whatever, that it's good, it's better, it's poignant, it's timely, it's necessary, that kind of stuff, right? And I was like, well, for a movie that is so aware of diversity, there is not a single Asian in this movie. What's up with that? And then Asian LaCroix dude showed up later, and I was like, there he is.
Wait, Asian LaCroix? Oh, the PA. The PA to hot Adam Brody.
They had an Asian in there, and I think that was exactly deliberate.
Why does Adam Brody always get cast for these douchebag roles?
He's a douchebag. And in this particular case, it's because he's a white-facing douchebag. Hey, what is flat white coffee? She ordered it, Rosamund Pike ordered it in Saltburn, and then here again. Is that a thing that I don't know? Is it like French tips for manicures?
I think it's espresso, but not as much as a latte.
Okay. So boring white people coffee?
Pretentious, Euro-esque coffee.
Every white person in this movie was super white. I mean, it seemed like every single one, from get the fuck out of here, Philip, the dude on the beach, was a pain in the ass white dude. And the producer, the publishers, that when he wants to change the title, they're like an SNL parody of white publishers.
Are you saying that they're painfully white because they're like pasty and literally light-skinned? Or because they're douchebags and completely insensitive pricks?
Well, were the two publishers, obviously they were self-interested in looking to make money off the publishing of what they felt was a very hot property, but were they condescending or racist or anything like that?
I mean, fuck you, Phil wasn't he?
Well, that guy was, but he was just a jerk. I mean, you can see, like, when that guy was on the beach, I was like, if that were me, I would walk behind them against the retaining wall or get the hell out of there. You don't interrupt a family ceremony like that. What a jerk.
I know, but they obviously had history.
I do think it was clearly aware of race on both sides.
But okay, because it's a satire?
It didn't rub me the wrong way. I just thought, man, this movie is going to... I didn't know if this movie, which I guess one would consider a black film by black filmmakers about black themes and with black people in it, if that was meant to be poking a little bit of fun at people of other nationalities other than black. But it's a different meta kind of fun. It wasn't like white people are stupid and black people are cool. It was that white people, like you people, that movie with Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill, are trying really hard to be cool and to, revel in the experience of what they consider to be authentic and raw, which is really just kind of foreign to them, and embrace it over eagerly.
So Issa Rae's character, Sintara, she is aware that she's capitalizing off of what white readers maybe want, and she herself seemed to know who she was. She wasn't pretending that she was her character's voice, whereas...
Right. She said, is it bad to cater to their tastes? Which I thought was strange because she took such umbrage when he suggested that his novel and her novel were essentially the same thing.
It's so dicey. What I'm trying to get at here is there is a interracial friction about black people who act white or who are whitewashed, right? This is a thing is this the thing?
Well, there is that affectation in the same way that certainly there are white people or non-black people who embrace black culture. But I don't think that was anywhere near the case with Monk. I just think he was an older black guy who was a little bit out of touch with popular culture, was more erudite and serious, one might say pretentious about his own writing. But that I think one can easily point to. Now, Jeffrey Wright as an actor seems, very, not to say that that popular black people aren't cultured or studied. He seems Jeffrey Wright feels to me like Monk, and all the roles I've seen him in, I guess, have been him acting sort of white, or at least not acting black in the way that Issa Rae's character, what's her name, Salamanca?
Santana.
that she writes her characters or the parodies that he wrote in I was going to say black in Fuck. It seemed authentic because I think that's kind of how Jeffrey Wright is.
Well, he grew up in a family with educated parents, like who's the wall-eyed guy that we just talked about?
Paul Giamatti. I did think that this was in a way it was more like a Black Sideways. Mostly because they were drinking a bunch of wine and he felt himself like a serious person, like an academic on a subject, and then he was just surrounded by nonsense.
Right, and both of them cast probably because they understand from their family of origin and real life experience what it's like. Jeffrey Wright's parents were lawyers, I think, or at least his mom was a lawyer. I think he grew up with his mom after his dad died. Raised in DC. So like he understands how to navigate this world. Like Paul Giamatti knows how to navigate the world of academia because of how he grew up. And so Jeffrey Wright maybe was a obvious casting choice, but maybe he's great as Monk just because he's Jeffrey Wright.
I do like him very much, and I do love Paul Giamatti very much. But I said about the Holdovers that his character of Hunnam was so Paul Giamatti that it was almost like not acting. I cannot say quite the same, but Jeffrey Wright fit right in for this in terms of playing this type of character because it's how I typically associate him. Oh, he was just playing Jeffrey Wright. So much so that when he played Stag R. Lee, that's where I think the accolades come from. When he played him so kind of serious and stiff, and defensive, but also like you could tell he was keenly aware and his gears were working the entire time. Oh man, I laughed 10 times more during this movie than I did during the Holdovers.
Yeah, he's stiff because you think he's tough, but he's just stiff because he's scared and he has no idea kind of what he's doing. I love that he was like, I told you to dress thug. And he was like, I am. He's wearing like a t-shirt and jeans.
Oh man, it was great. It was great to watch and it was really funny and aware in that way.
So are the filmmakers telling a stereotypically different Black experience story by focusing on a family of all doctors with seaside villas who drink wine and write books?
Look, I'm not sure. This one works, and I cannot help but think that every single step that this movie makes towards finding a certain audience by marketing the trailer as sort of a wacky comedy in a way, a self-aware, meta, self-referential kind of thing, a neo-Black movie, I guess. That sounds so dumb.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like a movie that's a Black movie that's different, that's could be considered for Academy Awards, whereas everyone was like, well, why didn't you nominate Straight Outta Compton? Because it wasn't a particularly good movie. And it's the kind of movie that Monk was mocking in a way, even if it was a real story. This seems like it checks a lot of boxes that aren't conventional for films. Oh God, I have to stop talking.
Wow.
It's seriously dangerous because this movie I can't even say it's a black sheep. It's unfortunate.
Wow.
How, as a reviewer, do we discuss American Fiction?
All I'm going to do in this whole review is just say, wow.
Wow. As I bury myself.
Wow. Wow. You know how else American Fiction is like The Holdovers?
How's that?
Both movies, somebody says, Christ on a crutch. I've never heard this expression. And the fact that it can be used across cultural experiences seems like it makes it a pretty versatile expression that I've never heard before. And I looked it up and I still don't understand what it means. It's something akin to shit on a stick.
Shit on toast.
What does that mean?
I think that was a Stephen Kingism.
So can we just jump right to the end?
Sure.
Let me make sure I got it right first. The scene at the awards ceremony is indeed what happened, at least up to the point where they cut to Monk talking with Adam Brody on the set on the film set, right?
No, I don't know. I know that the driving off the studio lot when he was making the movie with his brother was the real ending. And it was like typical high crane shot, wide of the entire studio back lot or whatever. And then the car driving off. Seemed like a very typical film ending. But other than that, the sort of reworking Rashomon, again, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent style ending that was ambiguous because it was the movie version of that story being told. I have no idea what happened. Did his book really win and he went up on stage at all? I'm not really sure.
So I thought that's what happened until at least he gets up to the stage. When he
slams to black.
And yes, and slams to black, which made it feel very ending interruptus. But the whole idea that he goes and he apologizes and presumably makes up with his girlfriend, that does not happen. In fact, in real life, we know where that relationship, we leave that relationship at, she hasn't called me back yet.
That's correct. She says to leave. He texts her about being his date to the ceremony. She left him on red.
Gotcha.
As the kids say these days.
And then...
those horrible bubbles of rejection. Oh, man.
And then we know that in the future movie of the life of Stag Arley, that he will get shot. In the fictional movie version, right? That they settled on that?
Because that's the version that Adam Brody embraced, yeah.
Okay. Which was the meta-ist of all meta references in this movie, because he's referencing the fictional ending of his fictional book that he wrote as a fictional character within the story of his own life.
Yes, but I believe this movie is working on multiple levels. I think at the same time it's its own awards bait in that it defies every turn for what's supposed to be a black movie by not doing those tropes, by pointing out the absurdity of him writing a stereotypical black novel or a trendy black novel in a couple of days?
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
How long did it take him to write that book? Because she's like, we should hang out. And then he's like, I'm going to write this book. And he writes it. And then they're like hanging out a couple of days later. But then she says, I read another one of your books. So maybe they had gone on a couple dates, but he wrote that best-selling runaway novel in like less than a week.
And then sold the movie rights for millions and millions of dollars.
And so look, I was like, okay, this movie is, as you said, kind of a slow burn. And then I got to a point where I was like, all right, something has got to happen. Nothing is happening. Oh, she's dead. And the sister died all of a sudden. And I was like, man, now we're getting somewhere. But it was the first of many tragedies in quick succession, some more tragic than others. But it really took a while to get into gear. But I do think it was engineered to be closer to what we expected a movie to be in a weird way. Does it make sense? It took on a much more fictional air in order to be about something.
Was it engineered to leave us feeling unsatisfied or unsettled about the story?
Yeah, the mom was never resolved. The brother found some resolve, but the sister died. There was no happy ending. It's why it felt like a Paul Giamatti film, because he was just sort of hapless and didn't get the girl.
Does that make it a serious film? Was it engineered to be a serious film in this way?
I think it held enough in check so that the humor was, we laughed along in a safe way. And the only problem is it raises real questions about what we can find funny as opposed to being offended by it. Like, Monk was like, get over it, Brittany, when Brittany got all pissed at the idea of the N-word being written on the board and like huffed out of the classroom. This was a safe enough movie that nothing of real consequence happened because, I don't know. It's tough to understand what was real and what wasn't within the scope of this film.
Okay, that was the ending. So then let's talk about how this movie works on a story level. I thought it was very interesting that all the humor comes from the satire and the parody and just the ridiculous lengths that people go to, on both sides. The length that Monk will go to play out his ruse, and the lengths that these guilty white promoters will go to assuage their guilt by validating a piece of quote-unquote black fiction. And so that's happening, but also it's happening on top of what is essentially a family drama or tragedy.
Yeah, it was near a horror film for those elements.
I mean, this is a family who's enduring incredible tragedy.
Right, because someone is either dying or has died.
Right. Basically, all the while dredging up stuff about their dad and enduring the day-to-day life, which isn't so simple either. And Alzheimer's. This was an Alzheimer's movie.
Yeah. It is not a new concept, but this one handled it in a way with a little bit of levity, in a way that I felt was satisfying, despite the fact that there wasn't a lot of satisfactory resolves in this movie. And so the lingering horror is what sat with me. Like, at $5,900 a month for the cheap shared room, you and I need to start saving, man, because I did feel very keenly the precipitous drop in the health of one's parents, and how that uproots their lives. The writer-director, and as well as Jeffrey Wright, cited some of these same things about moving back home to care for parents. Jeffrey Wright's mother, who raised him, having died less than a year before he received this script. Very real, man. And so some of the more fictionalized, stylized elements of American fiction were all grounded in really real, disconcerting sort of things.
I think I was surprised and a little thrown off by how kind of serious the family drama this was, and really how the family drama, and specifically Alzheimer's decline, is what drives the film. It's one of two main through lines for the film.
It makes it, I think, more rounded, more human, more real in a way, because it wasn't all that thing. As much as it wasn't the centerpiece of the movie, it was always on in the background. Like, we didn't need the Lorraine getting married, but I was over the moon happy for her.
Aww.
And for, what was his name?
Maynard.
I was super happy for Lorraine and Maynard.
Aww.
Like, she's like, I'm getting married in the middle of everything they're dealing with. And I was like, yay! It felt good and rounded and heartwarming in a weird kind of way for a surly, grouchy dude like Monk, who doesn't necessarily get everything he wants, even while he's undergoing a fantastic run of luck with his publishing. But maybe it was all justified in him cheating the system in a way, because the money that he was so reluctant to take was absolutely necessary. As an author with 4 books at least under his belt, and his brother, who is a plastic surgeon, they were still struggling to find full-time care for their mom.
Well, those divorces really take it out of you. But it's true. And the financial care for the elderly or the aging is real, for sure. I think there were some story mechanics at play, giving him a motivation to try and move some books and make some money. But he had no motivation or no excuse for how he treated his girlfriend. I totally get that his little ruse got out of hand, but why couldn't he tell her? And why did he have to be so mean to her?
Did you not think that because of the placement of Issa Rae's character, that she would play up so prominent a role that he might see that because his book helped his life, enabled his mother to find real care, that he would find kinship to the person that he reviled or was resentful of at the outset for cheapening the black experience? Did you not think that he and the Issa Rae character could possibly get together?
I think it would have been weird if they hooked up. I didn't feel like there was chemistry there, but there was a kinship for sure. And I think that could have been further explored.
And at the same, there could have been at least a moment where they untangled, all of their association and found a connection as Black authors who were striving for legitimacy, but who ended up going a more populist sort of route. And so when it comes to Monk and his girlfriend, I do think that he was looking to make a connection with someone who understood and identified with his philosophy, with his idea that there's seriousness in the world that has nothing to do with what white people ostensibly regard as a typical Black experience. And when she was like, no, I liked it, it discredited her in his mind as a person who liked his books too and was interested in him. What does it say about her taste that she fell in line with everybody else when she read that book? And I think it really hurt him in a way that it wasn't fair, but I did understand how he thought he was making a connection in spite of everything that he felt was going wrong in his world, to be like, I thought you were real. I think that he really wanted someone that he could connect with on the real level that he was trying to maintain in his own life. And when she wasn't that, he was a jerk about it. It's not okay, but I understood it, and thus was not overly pained when she left him on red.
So I think we agree he didn't have to be quite so mean to her. He's kind of a jerk to his siblings too, but in a way that any sibling worth their salt can bear.
Was there some level of truth to the mother saying, you're genius, and geniuses simply cannot relate to everyone?
Yes, except she wasn't talking to him. She was talking to his younger brother.
Well, no, she said about your dad. Your dad was a genius, and you are too, and that's why you can't relate.
Yeah, and then at the end of the conversation, she's like,
"Oh, right,
you, Cliff." She's like, "Yeah."
She said Cliffy. I wrote that down, and I was like, "Why did she call him Cliffy?"
She called him Cliffy
was Cliffy the gay brother's name?
Yes. She thought she was talking to Cliffy the whole time. That's why it was so crushing to Monk.
So Thelonious Monk's middle name was, or maybe the name he adopted was Sphere. And so I thought it was Cliff, and that's why you called him Cliffy, like to further connect him to Thelonious Monk, but that wasn't the case. Anyway.
That's the thing about dementia and Alzheimer's, man. It hurts.
Yeah.
You don't remember stuff, and you start thinking people are other people, or that they're children, or that they're old, or whatever. It's sad stuff.
So, when it comes down to it, what do we take from American fiction? You can take a real seeming family story that had some weight and impact, along with the parody and the meta-ness that comes with movies that are really, really self-aware and demonstrate that on screen, which are always good. There was some real wisdom in there. Enemies see better than friends. I liked all that stuff. Is it bad that I took a little bit of hope from this idea that the dumber I behave, the richer I get? That you don't need to be stuffy and ultra dedicated. Apparently you can write a bestseller in a week and change your entire life. And it doesn't have to be authentic or pretentious or any of that stuff. That you can cater to a populist opinion and find some satisfaction, like the Issa Rae character did, in slumming it a little bit.
Oof, I think this is the writer's fiction version of the story that you're taking from it.
That's like a writer's fallacy?
I mean, listen, maybe if you tap into a zeitgeist, if you there's a little bit of context and timing to it. Sure, but I think you can't count on that.
Well, Dan Brown wrote sensationalist novels, and all the serious people and historians are like, this is junk. And then they made the Da Vinci Code, and Tom Hanks is in it and stuff. It's going to be one of the most prestigious movies, and then it really wasn't. And then the better Da Vinci Code movie came out called National Treasure, and it was exactly what people wanted.
But aren't they creating Da Vinci Code World at Universal Studios?
Dude, this is the first I've heard of this. Da Vinci Code being what, at least 15 years old already?
That's going to be right next to Westworld.
Cool. But whatever. The point is, Dan Brown he did a thing, and I'm not sure how studied or art historian he is, but he made art history cool, like Indiana Jones made archaeology cool.
And like Cord Jefferson makes writing cool. So here are the IMDb user reviews. Are you ready?
Yeah.
7 stars. TIFF's People Choice Award winner?
So Toronto, apparently Jeffrey Wright was like, I'm going to take a back seat to this project and let Cord take the hit because he's going to be out front and doing Q's and A's and stuff. And then he heard that there was a long line around the block. And then it won the Audience Award at Toronto at the film festival. And he was pretty happy about that. I wouldn't say that this movie is slumming. It doesn't have any reason to be ashamed of itself. And people, it was an audience favorite. And I found a considerable amount of delight in this movie that I was surprised to find, because I thought this was going to be the dour, trying to be serious one. And I thought The Holdovers was going to be more fun and zany.
7 stars. The film explores the dilemma of making entertainment that criticizes it, as it can easily fall prey to its own pitfalls.
How many words is that? Because that seems pretty concise and pretty spot on. It's a dangerous movie. It's like, can you drown in a ball pit? Can you suffocate? It seems like it's safe, but talking about it is somehow difficult.
Last one, 8 stars. Intelligent, compassionate, entertaining.
Yeah, but I think that's limiting it. Lots of movies are intelligent, compassionate, entertaining. But this one is subversive and
raw.
Yeah, I guess so. But not in the way that Fuck was supposed to be. It's not like that. I think this is a movie that can be seriously appreciated, if not for the performances or for the heartwarming themes that are buried in there from the filmmaking approach and the layered writing that I found a lot to appreciate in this movie. 8 is good, but it's not great. It's an all right rating kind of movie. I called it Monk in the Middle, just because nothing was happening, but good things were happening still at the same time. It doesn't really commit to a particular genre, and in that way it's original, while having a Frankenstein-like assembly of a lot of other different movies of its kind. But the key distinction is that this one works, where some other movies that feel familiar and thus feel good aren't as good.
Monk in the Middle works for me because it feels at the same time profound and yet forgettable.
Yeah, once you go through the family stuff, and if you don't adore these characters because they're not wacky or zany enough, then it is a family drama. And how much does that bear repeat viewing?
And so is that your official all right rating?
It's definitely an all right movie. I feel like it would be pandering to say that this is the totally movie and the breakthrough movie that we've been looking for and that Black representation should lean on this year at the Academy Awards. I don't think that that's the case. I think it's a little bit too aware, but it was fun where it needed to be, moving where it needed to be, and all around well-crafted in what I consider to be the most important thing, a satisfying way. I'm glad I watched American Fiction. Terrible title.
And that's our discussion on American Fiction, a film from 2023, available in theaters.
And I don't have white guilt, so.
Not at all. Just writers' fantasies. What did you think? 818-835-0473 or orwhatevermovies@gmail.com. How you contact us. We hope that you are enjoying this award season. We have many more awards contenders coming up here at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Are you a fan of classic cinema or a young person who wants to discover the best films of all time? Do these legendary movies still hold up?
On the Generation Film podcast, 2 guys who grew up when movies dominated the culture share a great film with a panel of young movie lovers and see how it plays for today's generation.
We discuss changes in storytelling styles, representation,
the making of each film, its initial reception, and how its meaning has changed over the years.
Join us as we explore cinema classics across generations on Generation Film.
Electricast. Welcome to the Candle Power Hour. Come with us backstage behind the scenes of show business spanning over 4 decades and bringing you the experiences that can only be told by the people who were there.
Our guests are from the A-list, the F-list, and everyone in between. Get set for some of the most insane, hilarious, and inspiring stories you will ever hear.
I'm Mercury.
And I'm Diego.
Your hosts for the Candle Power Hour.